Welcome to Healing Echoes, Rebuilding Life After Trauma and Abuse. Today we have with us Mandy Schulis. Mandy is a serial entrepreneur with 2 successful businesses under her belt, an MBA in entrepreneurship and marketing, plus a digital marketing certification. She's a certified trauma-informed story coach that helps female entrepreneurs bust through mindset barriers and teaches them to leverage their stories for income and impact. Mandy believes in authentic conversation and connection above all else. After launching her 3rd business in 2021, she pivoted from marketing services to coaching, after realizing that many successful female entrepreneurs get stuck in their own stories, often resulting in imposter syndrome and fear of success. Whether these women are going through divorce, recovering postpartum, or launching a brand new business, it is Mandy's ability to help them see where they fit into their story that is her superpower. This process had been coined Mandy's signature method, the story shift. Her belief is that every story has a purpose, and yours is the key to creating a life full of purpose, profit, and fun. She is a domestic abuse survivor, former single mom, and believer in fairy tales. She currently resides in Tampa, Florida, with her husband, Matt, and 2 kids, Ella and Bo, and her 2 rescue fur babies that are always at her feet when she's writing. You can find her at www.mandyschulis.com or under Mandy Schulis on Facebook and Instagram. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm awesome. It was one of those moments as you're reading. I don't know if you have ever had this happen when people read like all your stuff. You're like, that's me.
It's me.
Yay.
Yeah. I have the first 2 podcasts I guested on were actually obviously the first like actual formal interviews I'd ever had, even professionally. And I was like, oh, they're talking about me. Like, oh, that's cool. So excited to have you on today. And obviously I just read a little bit about you, but I kind of wanted to start with you telling us more about your experience with trauma specifically.
Oh Lord, how much time we got? Um, so I'm a oh God, what is it? I'm not good at human design, 6'3" profile. And apparently that means I go through a whole bunch, like throughout the entire lifespan until I'm like 50, then supposedly I'm golden. That's what I've been told.
Right.
So I mean, child of addicts, grandparents adopted me, a lot of imposter syndrome growing up, very heavy as a child. Then I lost a bunch of weight and was the exact same person, but apparently was much cooler when I was skinny. Whatever.
And there.
Yeah, right. Had the heartbreak, had my high school / college boyfriend get another girl pregnant. And that sent me into a very long tailspin, about 2.5 years, where I did lots and lots of things that I'm not proud of. And I ended up with my ex-husband, who is somebody who, he was the bad boy. He was the bad boy, but he was the bad boy that honestly was secretly like this giant nerd.
Right. Just didn't want
And
anybody to know.
just didn't want anyone to know. And he honestly, he started doing drugs and drinking and stuff to not be the nerd.
Right.
And to deal with his own trauma. So I will never regret that, because that's honestly a huge part of how I ended up here. So
Right.
lots of death, lots of stuff, but I've been very blessed to be successful in whatever career I've chosen.
Right.
And I honestly believe it's because of storytelling.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know we had kind of previously discussed some of the things you've been through, and I feel like I relate in the sense of we've both had traumatic experiences, but it seems like in so many different ways. It's not just one kind of trauma, which just makes for so much fun. And I think definitely leads to the imposter syndrome, because it's like, what even am I? What am I even dealing with? Like, yeah, it tends to be a lot. It makes the healing process, I feel like, even more complicated sometimes, because you're healing from so many different things.
Yep, you get a handle on one thing and something else smacks you. It's like, wait a second. Like, I'm glad you think I'm a superpower and superhuman, but can we stop for a little
Yeah,
while,
please.
please?
I don't want the worst battles anymore.
Like,
And then what we had touched on was like that kind of anger and resentment and how important forgiveness is. So I wanted you to talk about that a little bit.
I have not shared this with anybody else other than my PR person. I don't think I told you this, but I feel like we've been talking a whole lot. So I'm applying for a TED Talk, the local one in Wesley Chapel, and
Nice.
eventually, hopefully, the bigger stage. Who knows? But
Right.
one of the big things when I met my coach that is in Nashville, I actually just came back from seeing her. The second time we ever talked, she wanted me to talk about my trauma, my history, and I was very honest with her. I said, I don't know if you've ever seen Diary of a Mad Black Woman, but I said I remember swishing my wine around and watching it, and there's a thing where she shoves her ex-husband, who now needs her care, into the whirlpool because she's so mad at him. She's
Hmm.
the only one left in the world that can care for him, but she's so mad at him because he treated her like garbage.
Right.
And this is before we split up, like a month or two before we split up, and I was like, God damn it. Like it's like you can't unring a bell. Like you just have that
Yeah.
visceral knowing, and that's exactly what happened. And
Hmm.
we spent 2 years in a custody battle, and shortly before Bo was born and he passed away, I called him and I said, I'm out of money. I know you're out of money. And I also know you're dying. So
Yeah.
I really would like to just put the swords down
Yeah.
and see what we can do. Like, I don't even care if I got drunk today, I can't pick her up, like just,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
And people like us understand why. Some people think I'm a little bonkers because of it, because like even my current husband helped pick him up off the floor at one point because he
Yeah.
couldn't stand on his own.
Yeah.
But it was that ultimate forgiveness that I wanted my daughter to see. Like it wasn't about me, it wasn't about us. I wanted her to see that you can choose to love the person even if you don't like what they've done to
Yeah.
you or done to themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It shows your character. It's not a reflection on them or what they did, it's a reflection on you. I think a lot of people struggle with that because they don't want to give. It feels like giving something to that person that hurt you or abused you. They're like, they don't deserve anything from me, but you're actually doing it for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know I seen it, because we follow each other on social media. I had seen you post something about it. And most people were like, yeah, but I know from when I've talked about it, people are like, no, absolutely not. I do not want to forgive this person. I struggle with it myself, definitely. From one of my abusers, it was just automatic. I understood like where they were coming from, the things that they were going through themselves. It was just automatic forgiveness. And then when it came to like the bigger abusers, like my parents, it was like I held on to anger for so long, that it actually started tearing me apart. And I think that's the message that we're both trying to send is like that anger and that hatred will actually do more damage to you than it will to them.
That is so freaking true. And the other really cool experience that I had, which I never was expecting, was in a weird way, we kind of became this weird hybrid family because like his mom passed away a few months after he did, but she was still alive. And like my last name was still Boyette at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And all the NICU, or not the NICU, that's the babies, ICU nurses knew we weren't married anymore. And that's his wife. Like, but they allowed me to come and go because it was the middle of COVID and you weren't
Yeah,
supposed to
so
be
you
allowed to do
had to
that.
be that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I kudos to the nurses at Tampa General too for allowing that, and my husband now, who I kept explaining it to him. I said, please don't think it's like I have some misguided. He goes, I don't think that at all.
Yeah.
I got very lucky with this one, trust
Yeah.
me, because a
I
lot of
know.
men would not, a lot of people, not even men, a lot of people would not have understood that.
No, they would not have. I understand that, definitely. I don't think people have a very set frame of how they think life should go, even when it comes to interactions with other people, what they feel acceptable. It's a very small box also. So if there's anything outside of that, it's like this is wrong. So yeah, you're definitely blessed to have partnered yourself with someone who not only understands where you're coming from, but also aided you in that. That's awesome. Sure, that helps in the healing journey as well.
It does. And I know when we were discussing, I shared with you that I recently stopped drinking alcohol. And I don't know if that's a forever thing or if it's I don't know. I feel so good that I'm like, maybe it is. Like,
Yeah.
I've always liked my wine, but I think it might be. But the clarity that's coming, and when I went to Nashville, I was like, I need to let the rest of this grief go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've realized that part of keeping myself in that grief cycle was the alcohol, was this, and not being willing to let go of the things that have happened, even though I have healed. Although arguably, I don't know if we ever really truly heal, other
Yeah.
than the scarring's still there.
It's a constant process of work. Yeah. I
Yeah,
know
for
when
sure.
I started mine, I kind of thought it would be like a project and you get to finish projects, but it's not. It's constant. Something else comes up and you're working through that. It does get better though.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure.
And when you mentioned your sobriety, I could relate to that as well, because I have a drink now and then now, but it's always just a drink. But I was sober for like 2 years, and it was so beneficial. It really just helped me have that clarity, like you mentioned, and be able to focus on just myself. That's awesome. Um, I want you to talk a little bit. Obviously, I talked about what you do professionally, but kind of how you started getting into that. What did you have an aha moment in deciding to take it to the professional world? Or did it just kind of
Yes.
happen?
So I'm a little woo, and I have talked about, I've only recently started to really open up about, the fact that I just know things sometimes. And I was asked to speak in Arizona last April. And originally I was going to go into digital marketing and all these other things. And I had woken up before my husband had this whole thing on social media and how to brand with social media and how to authentically be yourself, which was absolutely BS, by the way. Um, I mean, it was good information, but it was like half the information. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if I tell you actually what this really means, you're probably gonna be like, that girl's crazy. But you know. So as I'm walking, I'm prepping the speech, I'm prepping everything, and I'm walking back and forth in front of our bed. I was like, I just want to know what they need to hear. And clear as day, I heard a voice go, you.
Yeah.
And I was like, God damn it. So I ripped up everything I was gonna do. And I went in there and I did have an outline, but I talked to them and I said, look, I know what you're here to learn. And you are going to learn that, but you're not going to learn that how you think you are. And I went into personal storytelling and, the difference between being a victim and bleeding on your audience and being like, this happened to me. This is where I am now. If I can do it, you can do it too. Or this is what happened to me. This is why I'm a badass and this is my superpower and why you want to hire me.
Right.
Both win.
Yeah. And that's awesome. It's like, yeah, showing them that you don't have to be the victim, you can be a survivor, and not just like telling your story. But I think I keep using this word so much recently, but it's really just what keeps like being pushed to the forefront is that vulnerability, that rawness. And if you're not just like, oh, bad things happened to me, but you're like, this is what happened to me, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to show you a real person, people are attracted to that. They're like, yes, I want to hire you because you're real.
I've actually had that happen. There was a woman who is quickly becoming one of my favorite clients. When I first met her, I was kind of a little intimidated. She's like, I mean, buttoned up is the best words I can think of. I was like, and this is TMI, but I kept thinking, I was like, you need to pull the cork out of your what, lady. I was like, okay.
Relax a little.
Well, and it turns out so much of her stuff is anxiety about being seen. And I told her the other day, I was like, you really taught me a lesson because I'm so used to being out here and fun and whatever else. I was like, wow, don't judge a book by its cover, Mandy. Like, don't be like that. And so when she first reached out to hire me, I was like, you sure?
Are we a good fit?
Like, I don't know about this. And it was funny because the project that I currently have right now, the story shift, just the journal experience that I'm doing. I recently talked about, we'll call them psychic experiences where, paranormal interactions. And I saw she put replay on there. I was like, how's this going to go? Like, And she messaged me and she goes, I have an astrologer. Just thought you should know, basically, is the impetus behind it. I was like, okay, we're going to be just fine.
You're like, yeah, this will be fine. Yeah, sometimes that outward appearance, it really does give us the wrong message. That not judging people by their cover is very important. We all fall to that, unfortunately. We're all flawed. We all tend to judge or have, misconceptions about people. So I'm glad that it showed you that people can work together, even if they seem in the beginning to be like, oh, this is not going to be a good fit. So obviously, in the description, I tagged how people can reach out to you. But I wanted to kind of give you the opportunity to talk, and just really say what your mission is more than just in my words. And just any advice you might have for people in telling their story and how to get to that point.
So I don't know if you've ever seen, I don't even know if they still make the cartoons anymore, but back when Ella was little, my oldest, she was like 2. So like 10 years ago, right? There used to be all of these Tinker Fairy, Tinkerbell cartoons. And what I've explained to Ella multiple times, because she has a condition called Ehlers-Danlos, she is different than a lot of kids. different, whatever. They're, everybody's different, but you get what I'm saying.
I do.
So what I've explained to her is, some people are weather fairies, some people are tinkered fairies. And I believe that stories are our way of being like, this is what I'm a tinker fairy. This is what I'm supposed to, I'm a storytelling fairy.
I love that.
So my mission in life, and it's interesting because I've branded for women, but I've recently come to realize that I'm really not just for women. I've had a couple of men reach out that I've had incredible connections with. And I think I shied away from that just because of some of the things that I went through. I'm like, I'm going to be a bad bitch. I'm going to help all these.
Only women, yeah.
Trying to watch my mouth here. I hope that's okay.
Oh, you're fine. It's explicit.
But, my mission is for everyone to understand that your story is yours because it's a gift. All of it, even the bad parts. And I know some people are like, Mandy, that's toxic positivity. No, it's not, because eventually everything is good, even the bad stuff. It might take 70 years and it might not even be for you. It may be for your kids. It may be for your grandkids, but it will be a positive thing in the end. And that's the really crappy part about when you're going through it. It's like, I don't even know if this is for me, damn it.
Right. But I have to go through it so that I can tell it and help someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for someone, thinking about, wanting to start telling their story, obviously you're open to people reaching out to you and working with you. But what is the number one way that you recommend people getting over whatever might be holding them back from reaching out or speaking?
Number one is hard because I arguably say there's like 3 different things. And I don't know if without one of the other, I think I almost feel like it's a trifecta.
Okay.
The first one we already talked about is forgiveness. And that means of yourself and whatever the other parties are. There is such power in that. And I wish I could just like shout that from the rooftops. If I do land this TEDx, like that's going to be amazing. I can't wait. The other portion is owning your story and accepting that it might not be for you. It might not, it's almost, I argue with my clients that it's actually selfish to not tell at least parts of your story. Some of it, I get, maybe there's a gag order. There are some legalities and some things. I get it. And again, that goes back to everything happens for a reason. So maybe you're not supposed to talk about it now.
Right.
But, and then the third part is grace. I talked about this on a live this morning. People make the mistake of being like, I'm going to be good now. I'm going to be great. I'm going to heal. I'm going to do great. But that's like having a C-section and 2 days later trying to go run the Boston Marathon. Like that's so unkind to yourself. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Or being 100 pounds overweight and wondering why you don't fit into a size 2 a week after eating broccoli. Like the unrealistic expectations just because you can't see it.
Yeah.
I think that's where all of us get it wrong. Because we don't understand that we have to like exercise all of this and flush it and do God knows what else with it, to get it to where it's manageable.
Yeah.
And, and we just don't show ourselves any grace at all.
Yeah, that grace is really important. I learned that the hard way. But
you and me both, sister.
Yeah, the minute you start implementing it though, and you start showing it to yourself and not just to other people, you're going to see the differences that it makes in how you feel and what you're able to accomplish. That grace is super important.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I would like you to come on in the future and talk more because I think you have a lot to offer.
Thank you. This is fun.
Yeah, I love it. But I really appreciate you coming on and taking time out of your day to share with us.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for the invitation. And I'm hoping to make some more meetings and everything. It's just being really intentional with time right now,
Yeah, that's a challenge all on its own.
That's another episode.
Yes. All right.